y'all, it's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today my guest is Dr. Fazlur Rahman. Can you say hi?
Hi, nice to be here with all of you.
Yes, I really appreciate it. Guys, his background, he is an oncologist and he was based in rural Texas, and he had a great book that came out that emphasizes how much together we need to be empathetic with each other as doctors and as patients, and that'll help solve problems. I should say problems, but everybody's situation is different, and I like the humanity that he is bringing to the world. His book, by the way, is called Our Connected Lives: Caring for Cancer Patients in Rural Texas, and this came out, I believe, the end of 2024.
It came out October.
Right. Okay.
24.
So what prompted you? I love talking to people who like to write. So what prompted you to do this, to write this book?
That's a good question, Bridget. What happened is that after I finished my training in New York and Houston, I had to decide what to do with my life. I wanted to stay in academic medicine, but for different circumstances, one of my mentors, Dr. Hettig, one of the weaker moments, I told him that, "Sir, I wish I could make a difference somewhere." And he said, in academics, he knew my financial circumstances. I struggled as a student and all that. So if you go to private practice, you can be more financially secure, but you can do that in Houston or you can do somewhere else. And so what do you mean? He said, there is a place in West Texas called San Angelo. They don't have any kind of cancer doctor in whole West Texas, which is a big area, vast area. And if you went there, you could make a lot of difference in people. Here in Houston, you'll be one of 100. There you will be by yourself, sort of a pioneer. So I talked to my wife, ARA, and she agreed with my mentor, Dr. Hettig, said, we should go and, if it works out, fine, but we have used to struggle, so it doesn't matter. So that's why I came to West Texas in San Angelo. But three things, all my idealism that I'll make a difference, pretty soon got disabused. What happened? One was that all of a sudden I was thrown by myself, all by myself in a remote area, more or less. And a lot of patients from rural area, even though I was in a small city. And so I didn't have any library, anyone to talk to. In a big center, you are protected, whether in New York or Houston, it doesn't matter really. You have a lot of mentors, protectors, attendings, friends you can talk to. And I didn't have anyone to talk to. But you can talk to your mentors only so much on phone. This was before internet and all that. And you're at the patient's bedside. So I had to learn the hard way. Eventually it got better. The second thing was that, and this was the hard part, 50 years ago, 1975, started cancer practice. We did not have good anti-nausea medications and all that, and patients got chemotherapy and they got really sick, and that was very hard for me to watch. Now we have a lot of good anti-nausea medications, and my patients came from vast distances, like from Big Bend to Brownwood and Llano to Lubbock, and Big Bend is about 300 miles from here. And all these places that anywhere from 50 to 100 to 200, 250 miles were very common. So they go home and get sick, and that really kind of made me feel quite difficult in the beginning. And the third that caused me more problem also that, and this may be a little bit less positive, but it is important, is that a lot of rural patients are elderly. And there are a lot of patients, mortality rate was very high 50 years ago, 55 years ago in cancer. So we had a lot of terminal patients, advanced cancer patients, but we had no training on terminal care or end-of-life care. In those days, we only talked about patients. We didn't talk about end-of-life care. We want to save lives and we want to cure them. End-of-life care was an afterthought I didn't have. If you look at the old textbook, there's no chapter or anything on that. So I had to learn the hard way until the hospice came. So that made my life easier. But what prompted me to write the book is this. That is, I saw these patients going through all these complications from chemotherapy, from surgery, from radiation therapy, and they still go on with their lives. They are so resilient. I know word resilience is thrown around a lot. They went on week after week. Cancer treatment is not a one-shot deal. It goes on for months and years sometime, months at least. And that inspired me, and that encouraged me that these people have some confidence in me. They get sick, they still come back to me, and they go on with their life, their family, their children, parents, with their job, battling with the insurance companies, battling with the hospital bureaucracy, insurance bureaucracy, and whatnot, and they still go on. So I feel like that I should put my experiences of the patients, what I learned from them, and how I dealt with them and how they dealt with me into this book. So that's why this book is called Our Connected Lives, because my life was connected with my patients and their lives were connected with me as long as I took care of them. And though it says that taking care of cancer patients in rural Texas, this book applies, the stories apply to all cancer patients. It doesn't matter New York, Houston, Boston, or San Angelo, because rural patients have a little bit of a difficulty because of lack of access and all that. But the book applies to all the cancer patients. And then you ask me, unless you ask me later about the medical humanities, and can go to it later if you want me to, or I can go it now.
Yeah, that's important. The medical humanities, it's something that in the past, when you go to, I guess, medical school, you're learning all the procedures and that's really what it is, but you've got another human involved in both directions. And I think that will help find out the best solution for each person's situation is the humanity aspect, right?
Correct. So what the book also aimed at the trainees, medical trainees, interns, residents, medical students. That's why that empathy matters in medicine, it says, And I've been right about these things a long time, New York Times, Wall Street Journal here and there, Newsweek, Guardian, UK, London, Harvard Review. Harvard Review is a personal essay. So what it is that science is the basis of medicine, Bridget, you know that. But science cannot feel our anguish. Science cannot feel our fear. Science cannot tell our innate differences. And each person is different. So if you read, I give 2 examples there. One is that Anton Chekhov, one of my favorite short story writers, a Russian writer, he was a physician too. Ward number 6. And ward number 6, if you probably read it, is that this director of that ward never cared what happened to his patients. They got beaten by the orderly, they got mistreated. But then, by quirk of fate, he ended up being a patient in the same ward himself. And obviously, the orderly hit him in the face and all that and said, do you know that I was the director of this place? It doesn't matter if you're a director or not. You're a patient. So you get the same treatment like everybody else does. Okay? So before he died actually from that injury. He kind of in the twilight zone, he think, how could I ignore this? How could I not see it for 20 years and I was in charge of this place? How did that happen? So when I teach medical humanities, I'm not teaching right now, to pre-med students, and I tell them that, remember, you're going to be a doctor. So even when medical students came for rotation with me, once in a while they did in my practice, I tell them that suppose you are in the patient's place, how would you feel? Okay, so read the word number 6. It's one of the best short stories. And the second, I gave an example, Raymond Carver's poem, What the Doctor Said. Here, both the doctors and the patient are struggling, both of them. Doctor, he doesn't have any good news, what to say. So tries to say, are you spiritual, this and that, that's what the poem says. And the patient says, he's confused also. So that's a very good poem, what the doctor said. And Raymond Carver died of lung cancer, metastatic lung cancer. So he was only 50. And so it was kind of more biographical poem. So if you read poems like that and stories like that, it makes you sense how inner lives of patients, that's important, not just, and that makes you give a little bit more sense of feeling, how people feel when they come to you and depend on you and rely on you. You're not going to be always perfect. Have I succeeded all the time? No, I've failed my share, but I tried. So my point is that we need to teach the medical students, medical humanities, to keep track of it. That's the one reason. The second reason is that we have this MRI, PET scan, CAT scan, and whatever we have now, and AI coming now. What worries me is that if students from the beginning to end, all this is technology and not good bedside medicine. Okay?
Right.
Then they think like a patient is another machine to be fixed. It's not a human being. So those are things that worry me, that maybe we should, and I work at the advisory council member as a San Antonio Medical School, UT San Antonio Medical School, and other medical schools are doing that too, medical humanities. But that should be part of curriculum, my point. I realize science is the basis of medicine, but it cannot solve all the problems, especially human connection. So humanities will keep the human part of the connection. I hope that answers your question.
It is. Takes a lot of time. It is time consuming, and we have to learn to not react. I think that is from my personal experience of getting a cancer diagnosis, we just have to pause a little bit. I mean, it's easier said than done.
Yes, I understand.
But you have to have on both sides. I'm sure it's very difficult as a doctor to tell someone the really bad diagnosis. That is really stressful. I see that as stressful on the medical team as well, to have to do this all the time, because you want to be positive. And I think that's probably where people just, I don't know. You're right about the AI, though. We just need to make sure we're using it ethically and keep the human involved. And I think, to me, AI can maybe solve, or excuse me, get results on tests faster, maybe, but not to be involved in the humanity aspect, because we are still humans, right? We're still here. You're the human, you're the doctor, the nurse is a human, the patient is a human, everybody. I just hope uses this correctly. And I think the plus side of tech can save a little bit of time on getting results, maybe. But then you have to interpret that as a doctor, and what's the best step forward based on, right? The test results. And I think that's why having a conversation, and I think doctors too, you mentioned the insurance aspect, or you kind of brought it up. I think that kind of can affect how much time you got to work with the patient, right? Or it depends on what the doctor wants, what the goal is.
I think you're right. And nobody has unlimited time, just like you don't, I don't. And obviously I had a busy practice too, but it really doesn't take too long. When you are concentrating, if you pay attention to the patient, what she or she is saying. But nowadays, and my friends tell me, and I've gone to doctors too, most of them have been very good to me, but I see there are some doctors, they just type in the computer and talk to you. So that's kind of like you're not paying full attention to the patient. Do you understand that? So
I've had that, yes.
Yeah, and my point is that if you are giving me 10 minutes or 5, whatever time, just pay complete attention to the patient, what patient is saying, rather than doing multitasking, answering cell phone. I've seen that too, and those are my points. I think that becomes part of the training, because if you're a teacher, and I wrote in strongly, I said that the teachers have to be an example too. That's how I learned bedside medicine. My professor, my mentor was Dhaka Medical College, SM Rob, RAB. And he said that your healing begins at the bedside with your reassuring presence or your empathy.
Yes.
These two, that's the start of the healing. So I realized that we are more technologically oriented. Technology definitely helped. But then technology, just like you said, alone is not enough.
Right. It's definitely, I like how the healing starts at the bedside. It's the interaction that you're having with I call it the medical team or provider team. And I've always wanted to be positive. That's what I try to do. I think we need to try to bring, even though you got to accept the negative aspect, but then I've learned that trying to focus on, doing something positive to help heal. And I think our brain and bodies work together. Am I wrong? To help you heal?
Yes, absolutely right. No, not mind body medicine is very, very important. Yes, you are. Actually, like you're right on that, positive, and hope is an important part of care. There is no place for false hope, but if you take care of a patient for a long time and you have a rapport, the patient understands that things have been tried, it's not working. So, and they would understand it. But if you not have any rapport, then that's a different story. Then it's hard to convey some of the things.
Right.
You have to earn trust first,
Yes, trust. That is going to help a lot in the healing process to trust. And
Yes.
in your book, you have stories of people who weren't expected to make it, yet they did.
Correct.
Because I think it was the hope and the trust developed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's it just made me bring back memories for me. I didn't suppress them or anything. I just tried to make a positive outcome for it because I'm like, I'm still here, right? And
Yes.
I still do what I can, and I think that's what you're doing. You're trying to help. One thing that I noticed, I thought the nurses were really helpful for me too. They were
Yes.
very helpful, and but I had to go that route. I had to go down the chemo route based on other tests,
Right.
things like that. And the nurse said to me, Bridget, you should shave your head because it's very stressful when you're losing your hair because I was going to lose my hair. And I'm like, and I thought was kind of, I was like, what? But at the same time, they did it for me. And then my family, my husband and my sons, they shaved their heads. So all of us were bald.
I've seen that also.
We tried to make it, like a fun thing, like support each other. But that was I think one of the best things I got because I did wake up one day when a clump of hair came out. That stressed me out more than anything. And you want to reduce the stress level going through cancer treatment.
Yes.
If you have to go down that route. And I think they also offered wigs, but I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I just like, I'm going to be bald. And I was embracing the baldness. But some people.
It's temporary. It always comes back. Hair always comes back.
Right. Some people wanted to have their wigs on. I'm like, no, because that's not how my hair looked when I had. But it all grew back eventually. But again, we got to be patient with each other. We have to be positive and hopeful. And I'm so glad you're going down the route of training other doctors. So are you doing it at the university level or are you
Now I'm retired now. So
oh right, okay.
Yeah.
So this book basically is kind of make a platform, a launch for that to talk about this.
Yes, correct.
And
because from my teaching and from my whatever teaching I've done, but mostly from the experiences from the patients, they can teach you a lot. Patients can teach you a lot if you pay attention to them. Again, I'm not saying I'm any better than any other doctor, but I'm just telling my experience. That definitely helped me a lot. When I was so discouraged in the beginning, I told you, thrown into a small isolated place and then I have no other support. It's the patients that inspired me because I see they have been going through so much trouble and still making a life and going on and on and on. They haven't given up. Obviously not everybody made it, but certainly a lot of them did, and they did their best, to continue with life. So my point was that if they can do it, obviously I should be able to do it. And then once you, give some time, you get your own understanding how life is a daily practice and how it goes. You can get all the training in the world, but until you go at the patient's bedside, then there's a Yale professor, forget the name, I think it's Shapiro last name, but I don't remember first name. He said that you think you're smart until you go at the patient's bedside.
That's true, because they're going to get a different perspective.
Absolutely. Every patient is different,
Right. They're going to ask you different questions based on what's going on. And the cancer, it just depends on the level when you find it, right? Is what makes it challenging. The level 1, 2, 3. Mine was level 1 or stage 1, excuse me. I don't know why I'm saying level 1, but it was found early.
DCI is usually stage 0, but they said it's stage 1.
Well, I came back though for me.
Yeah.
And it came back by my armpit. And I thought I didn't know there's a thing called breast tail in your armpit. So mine, it came back in my breast tail. And I'm like, what? And so that's why they tested it. And it was by my lymph nodes. And mine came back, it was aggressive. And like, great. So, but we had the oncotype testing. That's kind of, I didn't know that was a thing. So I listened and asked questions. And that's when I went that route. And mine, as you know, mine was a puzzle. But I have a brain tumor is what they believe is what caused.
Pituitary, yeah, pituitary, yes.
Right, I have pituitary and a vestibular schwannoma.
Oh, correct.
Two, but I didn't know I had it, but because it grew slowly, and they believe the neurosurgeon I have been using, well, he hasn't done surgery, but he believes the vestibular schwannoma pushed on my pituitary, he put pressure on my pituitary. That's what he's thinking. And then finally got everything normalized, but it took a long time. And like I said, patience and curiosity and hope. And I like to, my experience working with doctors who are open to the questions, and they were open to research. Is that the right word?
Correct.
Open to different things. And they, excuse me, I know I'm coughing. Sorry. Sorry. That's the way it goes. This is this time of year. Anyway, it's a lot of different aspects out there. And I just think sharing stories like yours from a doctor's perspective is very helpful. And I think we need to embrace differences. I think that's important. And for me, my situation was I had to see 6 specialists because they were like, right. But again, it helped being curious, help solve the problem. And one thing I don't know if you've dealt with people who've had brain cancer.
Yeah, I had.
What I've learned from my OBGYN that they're using a tetanus booster shot to do that. And that's what killed my tumor, by the way. After the last, that's what killed it. And I'm like, okay, whatever, the Tdap booster shot. And that normalized my hormones, and that interesting.
That's what the immunotherapy came from, the thinking of that kind of thing. That is, you develop immunity, you get vaccine, this and that, And so now we see that the COVID vaccine also has other benefits.
Oh, you're right. I've learned, does it activate your T cells or something like that?
Correct.
And I actually had the COVID vaccine and the booster, and I felt better afterwards. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, because the immunity goes up, and that helps to fight other things too, diseases.
Right. And that's something that I believe we should just be open to that. Some people are afraid of the COVID vaccine, but they were like, Bridget, you need to do it just because of my health background. And it helped me, and I felt better. And it actually, like I said, normalized my pituitary I think they call it a microadenoma.
Microadenoma.
Yeah, that's what I had on the pituitary, and that all dead, all normalized. And it was the Tdap. And then I got the COVID because my brain tumor makes me tired sometimes because it's on the balance nerve. So this side has to work more. But I have more energy. Isn't that funny?
But like I have to say something though, and I don't.
Yeah.
Is that despite all the problems with the pituitary and schwannoma plus breast cancer recurrence, fact that you have gone through all this with a positive attitude and sharing your experience with others, kind of like me, you've done a lot more than I have in that sense, since you have gone through it. That says something about you. So I'm glad that you're doing this, and I hope that you will continue this.
Correct. And it was actually my sons that convinced me to share it publicly because they probably knew I needed that, right? Because I like to write, but I didn't write about that publicly. And so that's how it started, my sharing stories. And then eventually it led to this podcast. But I just want people to learn and you just got to lift yourself up. And I really think that what you're doing is going to help the medical community, because I think they're probably very stressed out as well.
Well, like when I practiced, and I've talked about it before, the CEO, the administrators of the hospital, they help the doctors to help patient care. If we needed something, they try to do their best to help. And now the system is opposite. The administrator tell the doctors how many patients, many places for that, how many patients they have to see. they have to this much production, this and that. And that was my point. And I'm not against profit. And I have talked about it before. What it is that excess profit that's causing a lot of these problems. You're talking
Yeah,
doctors don't have time, this and that. Part of the problem is that, they look at this insurance company CEO, they're getting millions of dollars salary, then cutting down benefits on patients for increasing the premium. I'm not against income or anything, but there got to be some proportion too, that what you are doing and how we are affecting people. I know it sounds philosophical, but that's pretty important, that
it
we have,
is.
we have to change our attitude as a society. I told another interview that we have two choices. Either society as a whole, change our heart that medical care should be different, and we strive for that, demand for that, whether politicians, doctors, and others together, or we just accept impersonal medicine and not complain. Surveys show 70% of the patients are dissatisfied with impersonal care. Why? It's already life expectancy increasing, quality of life increasing in many ways, and we're advancing in medicine, all sorts of things. So why people are still dissatisfied? Because of that, that they feel like we have become too impersonal in medicine. So something need to change. We cannot continue like that.
Correct. It's about, we have to be compassionate to the doctors too, not just.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. The society as a whole has to decide. You cannot just blame the doctors. You have as a
correct.
whole. What do you want? Insurance companies, hospital CEOs, health insurance is not a Walmart. I mean, you cannot make too much money out of sick people. And so I understand you have to make profit, but carrying it too far, excess profit, that's what causes a lot of these problems.
Right. It's something that we just need to be aware of. And I think people aren't aware of it. And so we have to talk about something like this.
Sure.
And I've been, like I said, I was very, very fortunate so far that I was worried about the medical debt, to be honest with you.
Yes, it is. I have seen
Between all that crap I've dealt, excuse me, I call it crap, over a decade, this is my whole 40s. I had to deal with this. But I think the positive attitude, and then my son's telling mom to write, and then I tried to make the doctors feel good too. And I created a book. My first book, by the way, is called Real Things, 6 Ways to Embrace Life.
Yeah, I'm going to read it after I finish my book and everything.
Gave it.
I like it. It's short. I think 120 pages or something like that.
Short. It's a lot of visuals in there because it made people happy. And I shared it with the chemo ward, pod, whatever you want to call it. I wanted them to just let everybody know it's okay. The one thing I think they should do better, in my opinion, in like the chemo pods, is that when they're feeding or people are donating food, don't donate. I'm sorry, Coke. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
They shouldn't do that. I saw that. And so I was drinking water because I knew I went and researched nutrition because I knew that was important as part of the healing, especially going through the toxic chemotherapy. That's one thing I was donating apples and water bottles rather than cookies are nice, but don't do it after a chemo session just because I think it's just not helping your body heal. That's just my opinion. But
no, that's true. Though. Too much sugar and too much salt are not good for you. So, sensible diet and sensible exercise and keeping positive attitude, these three will help a lot. And plus, you need a family and friend support too.
Oh, yeah.
Alone. So if you have these 4 things, then you should do all right. Sensible diet, sensible exercise, and then positive attitude the best you can. It doesn't mean you keep your eyes closed on the adversities.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been through that. And then there's some family support. And those who don't have families, hopefully friends will give some hand,
That is a great advice, to have somebody there with you when you're having a conversation with a health issue. And you can't listen, you're not going to hear everything.
Absolutely. I saw that one of the interviews talked about, and this is true. I always ask my patients to bring someone, family members or friend, because there are studies on that. When you give the cancer diagnosis first, it's a stress in itself. And then the doctors are dumping information, X-ray technicians doing it, nurses are doing it. So you get real overwhelmed. So if you bring and so patients don't, absorb, like half the information cannot retain. So it's nothing to do with the brain. It's just the brain is so tense and anxious that it can handle everything at a time. So I always ask them, bring somebody with you so that when you discuss about chemotherapy and the treatment, if you don't remember, the other person can help you. So that's a good advice. Always bring somebody with you, somebody you trust,
Someone you
There are
trust.
people though, there are people, and this is interesting though, human beings we are, as we are. Some people didn't want to bring family member because some family member didn't want to share their difficulties with the family members. Maybe there are differences, they don't get along and what it is, but they would share with their friends, which is fine with me. Whoever they feel comfortable with, I'm comfortable with that.
I had that. I had one of my best friends fly with me to Chicago to, I think it's Northwestern Hospital up there
Yeah,
because
that's a good hospital.
yeah, my brain tumors are rare. I didn't know what to do. Or I was getting weird information here. I should say
Yeah.
weird, but nobody, because it's rare. And I'm always a believer in getting second opinions too. So,
Sure.
so this doctor made me feel better. And I had one of my best friends come with me because my husband had to be here with our sons, you know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
so she heard everything. And so she helped me clarify what I had to do. And so it was all brought me hope. And then spend time in Chicago with my friend. It was also, I looked at it as but that's what it is. You got to find the bright side. I know it sounds cheesy to some people, but it helps.
Yeah, it certainly does. Where are you located now, Bridget?
Um, the my neurosurgeon I just saw, he's
No, you right now in what city you're from now?
I'm in the Metro Atlanta area.
Oh, Atlanta.
In the state of Georgia, there's not the Acoustic Aroma Association is here in Metro Atlanta, but there weren't many doctors at the time. Mine was discovered 15 years ago who could help figure out what to do because mine is pushing on the brain stem, and there's other issues that could come from that. And I'm just very grateful. I had a team. I've worked with the people who want to support me. I'm just grateful for that because that brain tumor diagnosis was scared me more than the breast cancer because they didn't know what to do. Right? The doctors were, at least the one doctor was pushing surgery, which scared me. And then the others were like recommending CyberKnife and Gamma Knife. And majority of them are recommending the Gamma or CyberKnife. And that's why I went the CyberKnife route. It sounds like, but it's meant for brain tumors and spinal tumors, I believe.
Yeah, correct. The sensitive tumors, because if you make a little mistake, it can have bad consequences, disproportionate bad consequences.
Correct.
It can have side effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, understand what you're saying.
It's all good. I'm just going.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I'm just really appreciate what you're saying, and I'm so glad you're pointing out as a doctor how important it is to have this conversations with your patients and their family or friends, because that is going to find the right solution or pathway. I should say pathway, because everything you're going to have some hiccups along the way. Finding out the right thing to do for somebody, and I just think also, I think cancer nowadays, you're surviving it better now, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. Surviving plus quality of life, before you worried about survival only, but, if you have to stay in the hospital off and on for a whole year, and that's not a very good quality of life. No. So now treatments have been tailored and a lot of protocols have been adjusted to make it easier on the patient the best you can without compromising the treatment. I mean, excuse me, what you're talking about, some of the things I address in my book, Our Connected Lives, Caring for Cancer Patients in Rural Texas. Again, the subtitle is a little misleading in this sense, but the reason I kept that title is because that's where I got my experiences, But right. that book applies to all cancer patients all over the country. And also, I believe it will definitely general readers too, besides the cancer patients and their families and friends. General readers to see what is inner working of the daily cancer care. A lot of people know it's difficult sometimes, but it's kind of a vague idea. But if you read about a patient's experience, yes, that's quite different, So those are the things I address, so Our Connected Lives.
So
in a way, actually, what you are saying, and you and I both agree, we are all connected in some way, right? Is that
we are all connected. And for your book, what do you think that people, the readers, what is one takeaway for them? Do you want them to take?
uh, one takeaway would be that be understanding to people who are going through cancer, whether you are a family, you don't have to pity them, but be understanding of them and give a helping hand the best you can. And those two things I would recommend, and not to be overbearing, just listen to them, what they need, don't need, and try to give a helping hand on that. And patient herself or himself is that try to understand your disease as much as you can, and also try to understand the doctor the best you can, and keep good relations with the office staff, also nurses and others. They can help you a lot when you can get the doctor. And the other point is that always get a friend or family member, especially family member, when you go to the doctor, so that you know what they're talking and what you understand, what you don't understand. And those are the things definitely will help. As a patient, what you have to do, and as a family member or friend, what you have to do. And obviously, I have some also doctors too, young doctors. Older doctors are set up. I mean, always set in their ways like me, but young doctors that remember what happens if you are that patient, and read those stories like ward number 6 and Raymond Carmen's poem, what the doctor said. Those things will definitely help you as a doctor, as a patient, as a family member and friend. So those are my messages,
That is really helpful. I really so glad that you took the lessons kind of in a way and put it into different stories and want people to learn from them. And some people are going to have a separate takeaway, maybe, based on their perspectives.
That's
but
okay.
That's okay. And I just like what we're doing. We just need to be there for people, support them. And some people are afraid, my understanding, to talk to people who are going through cancer for some reason.
Right.
To offend them, but you're not gonna. You just need to just be there for them and support them, and just ask them how you can support them. Right.
Correct. And don't be overbearing, because there are different people act differently, and some are very private, so leave them alone. If they want to be private for a while, that's okay. But you said that your son encouraged you, right? Do the things you are doing. Same thing. My wife said, you have all these experiences. You've gone through all that. She has been, we've been married for 55 years. So yeah, you've gone through all these things, and she's been part of it. So why don't you write it down? Her name is Riara, and she encouraged me and supported me that I write it. This is my second book. My first book, Temporary Doctor's Journey. The Temporary Doctor's Journey, it talks about my growing up, what is now Bangladesh, my training in New York and Houston. And the second book, this is the one that is the stories of my patients and my life with them, their life with. So I say really more stories of the patient than mine, which I really say.
That is really kind of cool. I should say cool, but it's really great that you did this. It took a lot of effort, because I understand the effort you put into it. And I think we should make time to read this book. So where can people learn more about you? Is there a website, or just go to Amazon?
Yeah, I have a website. It's fazlurrahmanmd.com. FazlurRahmanMD. My full name, fazlurrahmanmd.com. And there's a website there, and they can run a lot of information, can get in touch with me, and I'd be glad to answer anybody writes to me.
That's awesome. For those that are listening, I'll include the link in the description section. And I so appreciate you being on here.
Please put the website though in your link.
Yeah, I'll put the website. I'll put it all in there. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful day. And it's freezing here, but
that's same here.
But we'll all be good. Thank you again so much for your time, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for having me, Bridget. I appreciate that, and thank you for your work. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.